Hey guys, my name is Nicola and I'm 24 years old and I'm a CTO of a tech startup. And I wanted to share my experience. How did I get here? How did I start? And what can you expect from such a position? So let's go. So I started my journey in 2019. I just finished my high school and I was in between my college degree and uh, thinking of what can I work. So I joined a startup incubator, not knowing even what a startup is. And I realized that startups are, for me, fascinating companies because they're not just here to make money, they're also here to make an impact and to solve real world problems. So, believe it or not, you're probably using at least 5 startups right now. And um, driven by that passion, I founded 3 startups and joined more than 10 to 15 projects in that world until now. And sadly, also happily, my 3 startups all failed. Why did I say happily or even luckily for me? Is it's better to fail sooner than later. It's better to validate your idea and to know where you stand. That's how you will know if you're on the right path or not. And if you believe that you're not on the right path, it's the best to just leave it. But until now, as of 2024, I'm working in a startup as a CTO, and uh, it's not funded by me, but the idea is amazing. And for the privacy reasons, I cannot say the idea or the company. I'll keep it, but I'll talk about my experience in global. And let's say when you're a CTO of a startup, uh, I realized that on my 4 projects, I was doing the CTO part on all of them, and I realized that being a CTO is not about technologies or being an architect or being a solution expert or anything. It's about being flexible and knowing to solve problems. So I didn't believe, but in this project, I had so much more documentation and papyrology than I wanted to do. And yeah, I don't say it's not fun part. It's actually pretty fun, I'd say. I didn't know that doing paperwork and regulations and certifications could be an interesting part of the job, but it is. So don't expect just to be on your laptop code. Coding is the minimal part of being in a startup. Uh, the biggest part is researching what you have to do and what are the next steps. So I learned a couple things about being in a startup, and I will share them with you right now. Since I'm talking this without a script, I don't know how many it will be, but I will share the first one. And the number one, most important, is know the regulations you have to follow. Because if you start developing an application without following any regulations, then in the future you will have to face a lot of changes, a lot of configuration problems, and you will have to change almost the entire application, maybe to join some countries. So for example, in European Union, you have to follow GDPR, and for some parts of the world, such as Brazil, you have to follow LGPD. So it sounds like a boring part, but it's the most important one, because having those agreements or certifications, you're granting your users that you will keep their privacy. And even though 99% of users don't know about that, or they don't even know that it exists, this 1% can actually literally kill you. Because, for example, if you are collecting the data that you are not stating, they can sue you. If you are using the data that is not meant to use in that way, then they are going to sue you. So they have millions and millions of ways to to sue you over some details you maybe forgot about. But as a startup, you don't have that money, so you're not a huge company such as Apple or Nvidia, or I don't know. You don't have millions to cover the, the lawsuit, taxes and stuff. So yeah, you have to somehow get over it. So you have to get around it. Sorry. And the second most important part I realized is to make a visual of anything you're doing. So make a visual representation. If you're doing an application, make some kind of wireframe. If you're making a configuration for one part of the app, make a wireframe for that. If you're doing the certifications, then you have to make some kind of roadmap. So it's easy to show your teammates what do they have to do and what is needed. So make a roadmap for everything and wireframe for everything. It takes you less than 1 hour to make, and it's really easy to present. So the number 3, which I find the most important, is having the talk. I know that I don't sound like the most convincing person, and I probably am not. That is what CEOs are for. But yeah, you have still to make people fall in love with the tech. So when you hear people who are famous CTOs, you actually fall in love with the technology because you see that they are in love with their technology. And I think it's not right to work on a project that you don't believe in. So if you think that the application or hardware or anything that you are developing is not worth developing, then don't do it. It's going to be obvious that you don't care about it, and for startup, that's a killer. That's going to kill the idea. So be honest with your teammates, with your partners. Say, I don't like this application, I don't think I'm the right choice for this, and look for the solution that you really like and what you see yourself doing. So in my experience, for the past few years that I've working as a startup entrepreneur, let's say, in some way, if you expect some kind of safety and secure position and a stress-free life, then startups are not for you. Startups are like being in a basketball or football club that is competing in a high league with a lot better competitors than them. So you have to give 101% of your energy and focus into that. And if you can't handle stress, then it's not for you. And I don't see stress as something positive, of course. I don't think it's necessary or that you cannot deal with it, but it's something you have to learn to cope with in startup world. And it's really hard, I know, but it's the little things that make startup world a better place. Because in normal companies, you see people with steady jobs and normal, let's say, work life without stress. That's totally fine, and I support it. If you don't want stress in your life, then some safer companies for you, and I support it. I like that people do what they want to do. But if you see yourself as a competitive person, then startup is for you. Because, for example, when you have a meeting with your clients and customers, and when you hear the size of a problem you're solving to them, or when you see the number of people who assigned for your application, that's something that you cannot see anywhere, and that's something you cannot feel anywhere else almost. But also, it's not always the case. In 99% of startups you will fail, and only 1% of them are going to keep on doing what they do. So for me, I never thought I would like to work in a fintech startup, for example. But when you see some of the fintech startups in the world right now, you'll see how much of a problem they're solving and how much of a social impact they're making. For example, Revolut or Wise, they are having a card that lets you have competitive conversion rates anywhere in the world, which is really important, for example, for someone like me who travels a lot. And it really makes a problem to the traditional banks. But also, we are developing into another stage of fintech. So there are a lot of startups that are now making a huge impact and a change on Revolut system, for example. But let's not talk too much about fintech startups right now, because we're focusing on startup as an ecosystem. And there are many more categories that you can work in. For example, my previous startup was healthcare. So you have medtech, you have fintech, you have agritech. So you have many options where you can work. So startups are not a type of company. There are a huge ecosystem of companies that are working on something impactful. So I don't want to drag this clip to be too long. I wanted to say that for me, startups are something that I always looked up to. So in conclusion, I'd say that my idea of working in startup was really different than it is now, and I hope that you have any kind of better knowledge after this video. And if you have any questions, please leave it in the comments and I will answer to them. And I really want to inspire you people to join startups and to make the world a better place for entrepreneurs, and so you can realize that anyone can start a startup right now. It's just the idea that powers it. So if you have an idea and you have 3 people or 1 person besides you, you can do it. Just research, read a lot, and make a positive impact with your idea, and you're on a really right path. But for people who are not into startups, I hope I gave you an idea on how it looks like, and maybe you realize that you are not for this world. So yeah, I say it's totally okay if you don't like the stressful way of living. That's I know that startups are not always stressful, but you have to be prepared for it. And if you are not into being stressed, then you should probably reconsider joining a startup, or maybe you can have a internship in one and see how it looks like. So yeah, thank you for watching, guys, and see you in the next video. Bye.